Oh dear. Why is making a fighter so hard? Well, hello everyone. First, I would like to apologize for taking so long after our last release, but I promise you, the wait is worth it. This next release was made as a collaboration with the brilliant workshop creators ricE and Dopefish. So dash your sorrows, as we're ready to show our next Final Frenzy project right now. Well, no wonder it took us so long. We're not only adding Soma Cruz from Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, and Dawn of Sorrow, but also Gergoth, one of Dawn of Sorrow's most iconic bosses, into VVizard's Final Frenzy. Soma was developed in collaboration with ricE, and Gergoth was created alongside Dopefish. So, how did these characters come to be? Well, I've worked a bit with ricE in the past on Broomhatter, but I always wanted to collab with him properly on another character. That's when I saw him mentioning enjoying the Castlevania of Sorrow games, and at that moment I knew I had to pitch Soma to him as a possible collab, and here we are. For Gergoth, it was a bit different. Initially, I contacted Dopefish to collaborate on Dracula, but since she was doing her own Horror Jam character, that was as far as we went, until she released her Horror Jam character, Zephyr. A welcome surprise to be sure, as he's another boss from Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. At that moment, I knew she was a fellow Castlevania fan, and discovered one of her planned projects was to make a playable Gergoth. Since we already had Soma planned, having Gergoth alongside him would be very fitting. So this whole time, here I've been talking about these of Sorrow games in relation to Soma and Gergoth, and you might be wondering, who are these guys exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. Unlike the previous games in the series, set in a somewhat distant past, this game took place in the near future, in the year 2035. In this game, players took control of series newcomer Soma Cruz, a Japanese high school student who finds himself trapped within Dracula's castle, which, for some reason, is now inside of a solar eclipse. In this game, Soma has the ability to equip a variety of vastly different weapons, as well as harnessing the power of dominance. By defeating enemies, they have a random chance of dropping a soul, which in turn gives Soma different abilities and attributes based on the giant bestiary present in Dracula's castle. With this new gameplay mechanic, alongside a tightly designed castle and brilliant visuals and music, Aria of Sorrow became an instant classic, considered by many to not only be one of the best games on the GBA, but one of the best games in the entire Castlevania series. Only 2 years later, in 2005, the game received a sequel called Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, released for the Nintendo DS. This game brought back Soma Cruz alongside the novel soul mechanic from the previous title. This game took full advantage of the DS's capabilities, both in terms of touch control gimmicks, but more impressively, in terms of graphical fidelity and unique effects, one of which gave room to more imposing bosses and arenas. One of these, of course, being Gergoth's shining moment. One of the most cinematic bosses in Dawn of Sorrow, Gergoth is a massive beast, fought at the top of the Condemn Tower. Not only is he huge, but his arena is claustrophobically small, forcing someone to get up close to him to avoid his screen-covering beam, or slide underneath him when he jumps across the stage. But the true standout moment is halfway through the fight, when Gergoth's rampage breaks the floor and sends both combatants free-falling towards the base of the tower. After the release of both of Sorrow games, Soma quickly became a fan-favorite character in the series, later reappearing in spin-off titles like Castlevania Harmony of Despair and Castlevania Grimoire of Souls. Funnily enough, Gergoth was also one of the few bosses which had notable appearances in both of these games. Gergoth even had a small appearance in the Castlevania Netflix show as well. While the Castlevania series is sort of dormant at the moment, Soma Cruz still pops up in crossovers and collaborations, like Super Bomberman R Online and Dead by Daylight. Just recently, we've seen the release of the Castlevania Advance and Dominus collections, finally bringing Soma and Gergoth's adventures to current platforms. Why don't we take a closer look at how these characters work in Rivals? First, I'll give the stage to ricE, so he can explain Soma's gimmicks and moveset.
Hey y'all, ricE here. I'm here to explain Soma's gimmicks and moveset. Just like in his games, Soma is a jack of all trades, having a lot of versatile attacks and options for most scenarios. Soma attacks both using a variety of different mirror moves, as well as a variety of weapons, giving him a mix of fast, close-range attacks with disjointed weapon strikes. Let's start with his upbeat. It's his bat form. Similar to Dracula and Alucard, Soma can also turn into a bat. I wonder why he has this ability. Well, anyway, Soma quickly turns into a bat and flies one of the 8 cardinal directions. Soma can fly up 2 times in a row, but only if the directions are different. You can think of this as something like Pikachu or Abza as well. This allows Soma to better mix up his recovery and landing options. Additionally, you can also edge cancel this move on platforms as a mix-up option to shake up your approaches. Now let's talk about Soma's main gimmick, his power of dominance. By KOing opponents or by doing enough damage, a random soul will burst out from said opponent and fly towards Soma, granting him a new special move. Souls come in 3 different types and colors. Red for bullet souls, blue for guardian souls, and yellow for enchantment souls. Each of these go towards his neutral, forward, and down specials respectively. This means that Soma has a whopping 5 different special variations for each of his remaining specials. Let's take a quick look at all of them, shall we? End special is the bullet soul. Bullet souls usually come in the form of regular projectiles, although some have unique properties. Soma's default end special is the winged skeleton soul, the first soul Soma acquires in Aria of Sorrow. This allows him to toss out spears, which fly in an arc, that stop on ground or platform contact. It's a bit weak, but its range is pretty good. His second bullet soul is the puppet master soul. This is a unique projectile where after Soma tosses it, if the puppet hits something, like a platform or another player, Soma will instantly switch places with the puppet, allowing for unique follow-ups. You can even use this as a recovery mix-up. Next up is the magic missile soul. Soma creates a bow and arrow behind him, which shoots a delayed arrow forward. You can also keep holding the special button down to delay the arrow, allowing you to fire it at the best time. This is a very useful way to hold down the current space, although you will not be able to use your other special as well as being held down. His next bullet soul is the Aguni fire. Soma throws a small fireball forward which quickly falls, and the moment the fire hits the ground, it ignites to a traveling, fiery, multi-hitting hitbox, great for trapping opponents in their tracks. Use this as a way to control the ground space in front of you. Soma's final bullet soul is the discus soul. Soma tosses a giant buzzsaw in front of him, connected to himself via a string. This attack goes forward and boomerangs back to Soma, ideal to trap enemies for a powerful follow-up or to quickly rack up damage. Next is Soma's F special, the Guardian Souls. Guardian Souls usually involve some sort of movement option or a unique form of attack. His default F special is the Sonic Dash. This is a simple, quick, horizontal dash, allowing Soma to close the gaps between himself and his opponents. It's pretty average, but it can lead into follow-ups if used well. Next is the Curry Form Soul. In Aria of Sorrow, Soma would actually transform into another character, but in Rivals he only really mimics the attack, rushing forward while doing multiple hits. Additionally, on hit, this move can be cancelled with a jump. However, this move can be easily whip punished. You can also press parry to cancel the move into end lag after reaching a certain point. Up next is the Cognazo Soul. Soma actually summons a stand in front of him which throws out fast punches. While this leaves Soma vulnerable on whiff, if these punches land, the stand will initiate a flurry of punches ending in a powerful uppercut. Try using this move as a combo finisher to secure vertical KOs. Soma's next forward special is the Stinger Soul. Soma grows a giant scorpion tail and stabs forward with it. If Soma manages to hit another player, he'll pull them towards him for possible follow-ups and combos. Additionally, this scorpion tail can also stick to walls and platforms. This allows Soma to pull himself towards that for a powerful boost or for a strong recovery option. Finally, Soma's last forward special is the First Class Soul. Unlike his previous souls, this isn't actually an attack. Soma tosses a quote-unquote table forward, and when it lands it will summon 2 skeletons underneath it to carry said table forward. In a way, this is kind of like Shovel Knight's mobile gear, but trading offensive potential for a wider platform. You and your opponents can catch a ride on the table, perfect for allowing you to charge your strong attacks while moving or falling. Or if you just want to take a quick ride if you don't feel like dashing. Whatever floats your boat. Soma's final special is down special, the Enchantment Souls. All of these souls involve Soma triggering something, either familiar to a system in battle or even unique stat properties. Keep in mind that, unlike his previous specials, these ones will actually consume Soma's MP meter, which is present on his HUD. Whenever a down special soul is active, Soma's MP meter will start to drain. However, Soma's MP meter will recharge over time or by directly landing attacks, which will fill it back up. Now, let's get into those specials, shall we? Soma's default down special is the Bat Familiar. Whenever Soma hits an opponent while the bat is following him, the bat will then proceed to dash towards the hit opponent's location, allowing for further follow-ups. Keep in mind though that the bat is vulnerable to attacks when it flies back to Soma. The next enchantment soul is the Great Armor Familiar. As the name suggests, Soma summons the Great Armor from earlier. This armor will attack with its powerful sword anytime Soma either whiffs or lands an attack, which is great for spacing out and covering yourself when throwing out other attacks. Some attacks and even other specials synergize well with Great Armor. Try experimenting to figure out which ones work best. However, the Great Armor has a short cooldown after each attack, so please keep that in mind. Next up is the classic, the Flying Armor Soul. This one doesn't attack enemies, but rather instead allows someone to slowly glide down in the air whenever he holds down the jump button. Don't think of this as a true float, but rather more of a slower descent in the air. This can be a great maneuver for recovering, edge-guarding opponents, or just standing your arrows in general and following up off of them. There are a few pretty creative ways you can use this, so try experimenting. Soma's next down special is the Fire Circle. With this move, Soma will summon 2 fireballs which will begin to orbit around himself. These fireballs can not only damage nearby enemies on contact, but they can also protect Soma from enemy projectiles if they come too close to him. And finally, last but not least, is Demonic Contract, Soma's most dangerous soul. By triggering this attack, Soma buffs his general damage and knockback by a noticeable value, making him much more powerful. In exchange, Soma will be constantly taking damage while the special is active, so only use this if you're willing to trade survivability and life for increased offensive potential. And that is all for Soma's special attacks. Soma will always get random souls throughout the match, whilst making sure he gets one of each type, but if you get a soul that is undesirable to your playstyle or situation, that's where the soul menu comes in. By pressing taunt, Soma can open a soul menu, allowing you to cycle through Soma's currently acquired souls. While the soul menu is open, you can also press the attack button to lock a soul. This makes it so this special will not be replaced when Soma gets a new kind of soul for that category. You can even use the soul menu on the respawn platform after a stock loss to allow Soma an opportunity to change up his loadout as needed. Managing Soma's souls is an important part of his game plan to ensure that you're on top of things at all times. Soma isn't here alone though. His sworn nemesis, well, one of his toughest opponents, Gergoth, has also arrived in Rivals Workshop. Let's give the stage to Dopefish so she can explain how this monster works and plays.
Soma's strongs all have a unique origin from his games. The up strong is a multi-hitting overhead twirl of his spear. This comes from his first guardian soul from Dawn of Sorrow, the Unrivaled Spear, where Soma performs a similar spinning maneuver. His down strong is based on the critical art from his heavy weapons in Dawn of Sorrow, where Soma jumps up, then lands with a powerful attack. Here in Rivals, you can even move a bit during the charge, as well as fall through platforms by holding down. And finally, it's Soma's most iconic and powerful sword from Aria of Sorrow, the Kriam Solas, where Soma swings it twice in front of him. What the sword lacks in speed really makes up for in range and power. As mentioned before, Soma uses all of his weapon types from his games in this moveset as well. His jab has him throw a punch, thrust with a rapier, and then swing with an axe. He uses a knife for his dash attack, a sword for his forward tilt and up air, a katana for his forward air, and the previously mentioned spear and greatsword for his strongs. Some of these animations are referenced one-to-one from his actual games, like the poke with his rapier and the rapid slashes of his katana. His up air is even based on how he swings the swords in a circular motion above him in Aria of Sorrow. On the topic of attacks, Soma also uses a few unique souls for some of his normals. His up tilt, for instance, is an upcut that leaves him airborne, being based on his Guts upper attack from Aria of Sorrow. For his neutral air, Soma emits a sonic wave around himself, being based on his Echo of Bat attack, also from Aria of Sorrow. And it's tradition for Castlevania protagonists, Soma's down tilt is a classic slide kick, which can be cancelled by going off of a ledge while it's active. His down air is the iconic dive kick, which can spike opponents at the start of the attack, and even allow Soma to bounce off of enemy projectiles. Be sure to try it out in combination with Magic Missile. On the topic of animations, ricE did a fantastic job portraying many of Soma's miscellaneous animations from his games, such as his idle fidget, which comes from the pose he does in Dawn of Sorrow when holding up. His parry is based on the animation he does when using Final Guard. His dodges come from his backdash animation, and his air dodge comes from his teleporting animation from the evil Soma boss fight. Wait, what exactly is it from? And for his final animation, Soma's taunt isn't based on any in-game action, but instead based on his pose from one of the promotional artworks from Aria of Sorrow. Soma looks very imposing with his back facing the viewer. You can even hold the pose for as long as you want. Gergoth's forward strong is a classic move, rearing up and biting down in front of him. While it doesn't have much range, Gergoth will inhale while charging, pulling not only enemies but also his very own putrid mist, even from across the whole stage. If Gergoth inhales it, it makes the attack much deadlier. His down strong is another move he performed in Grimoire of Souls, turning around so violently he hits opponents behind him. But coincidentally, Dopefish designed this move before she even knew it existed. Gergoth's up strong is one of his slowest and most powerful moves, where he curls up and violently roars around himself, hitting opponents multiple times and launching them at the end. The more times this move hits the opponent, the stronger the final hit's knockback will be. Despite being a huge lumbering beast, a few of Gergoth's normals and aerials are surprisingly fast, such as his forward tilt, up tilt, and forward air, all of which have him swing his head fairly quickly. Gergoth's jab in particular is a very useful move, biting the opponent and throwing them above and slightly behind, to follow up with tilts or with aerials like his spinning up air or his deadly back air. Gergoth's neutral air shines thanks to its multi-hit hitbox that lingers even after landing, meaning you can follow up with some of his faster moves. Just be careful, as this move damages Gergoth a little bit too, and it can add up over time. This move was taken from Grimoire of Souls, which Dopefish didn't even know existed until shortly after she started working on this project. Fun fact, when Gergoth loses his shackles, the way his ankles are rubbed raw underneath is also inspired by his design in Grimoire of Souls. Did you know Gergoth is too big for Rhino's bubble? Well, his usual hurt animation is. Anyways, to make it look less awkward, he has a special sprite just for that particular case. Poor guy is absolutely crammed in there. Let my boy free. When Gergoth falls down in the tower in Dawn of Sorrow, he ends up with his head buried in the ground for a few moments, letting someone land a few extra free hits before the fight resumes. We absolutely had to pay tribute to this fun moment with Gergoth's Pretland animation, which similarly features his head being buried, and with him having to yank it out before he's able to attack again. Like many workshop characters, Gergoth has a secret taunt you can access by holding down when taunting, but he also has a super secret third taunt. Can you figure it out? As is tradition, we also have a voice mode. Well, only for Soma this time. You can pick Soma's voices from either Aria of Sorrow or Dawn of Sorrow. Soma will grunt when attacking or getting hit, as well as saying specific lines during certain attacks. Soma and Gergoth also have unique revival platforms. For Soma, it's based on the save room from Dawn of Sorrow, with those calm blue pillars. For Gergoth, Dopefish truly went all out. In Dawn of Sorrow, whenever you defeat a boss, you need to draw a magic seal on the DS's touchscreen. The boss is only defeated if the magic seal is drawn correctly. Otherwise, the boss gets back up with extra health. It seems Gergoth's opponent failed to seal him up, and that's why he's back in the fight. While you don't need to draw magic seals when you KO Gergoth in Rivals, he still uses the magic seal design and visuals for his revival platform. As a first in Final Frenzy, Soma and Gergoth have custom-made victory themes. Dopefish actually commissioned fellow workshop creator Spadster to make custom arrangements for their victory themes. Soma's victory theme is a small segment from his very own theme, Ruined Castle Corridor. While Gergoth's victory theme is a segment from the Condemned Tower track from Dawn of Sorrow, which is both Gergoth's home stage as well as the area he has fought in. As usual, Soma and Gergoth received their very own splash screen artworks. Gergoth was drawn by old friend Grim Reaper. As always, they did a fantastic job portraying the sheer size and power of this beast on its deadly home turf. For Soma, however, the artwork was drawn by the workshop creator ricE. ricE did a wonderful job on Soma's splash screen, with the pose and composition being based on the box art for Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, with Soma's home stage visible in the background. I do wonder if we might be seeing a collab with ricE in the future. If you recall, we actually teased Soma earlier this year in the Helldiver trailer, where they blow up both Dracula's castle and the Count himself with a 500 kg bomb, where afterwards it's shown a white bat flying away from that debris. Now, opening Soma's trailer, we see that destruction from a different perspective. Interrupting our beloved Funky Kong's beachside nap, the powerful Kong sets out to investigate the explosion himself, only to find himself as a target from Zephyr, another boss from Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, before the fiend is taken out and has his very soul absorbed by none other than Soma Cruz. The Gergoth segment was easier to produce, just having him interrupt Soma at the very end. Those with a keen eye may notice that Soma's final clip was in the Condemned Tower, a new stage which wasn't revealed yet. Okay, that's enough of that. Why don't we finally take a look at both of their home stages?
Hi again, ricE here. You guys get to hear my voice again, isn't that cool? Anyways, I'm here to show off Soma's home stage in Rivals, the floating garden from Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. I made and sprite the stage's visuals in basic form, while ViviVinya helped out and coded the entirety of the stage's Aether form. This stage is one of many locations found in Dracula's castle. It's a giant series of interconnected locations led together by passages, and this is where Soma also makes his defining step to fulfill his destiny after certain conditions have been met. This stage mainly takes place in the garden area of Floating Garden, a few rooms into the area, with various pillars and greenery adorning the landscape. The beautiful night sky, clouds, and moon can be seen in the distant background, which should give you an idea of how high up you are in the castle. This stage has a unique mechanic to it. Once an opponent is KO'd off of the side, the Floating Garden will rumble and cause the platform layout to shift in the direction of the KO'd opponent, completely changing the layout entirely. There are a wide variety of layouts that can appear, and some even have ceilings and vertically moving platforms to keep you on your toes. It will only change on player depth, so keep your wits about as there's no need to worry about the layout changing randomly. The layouts will also always appear in the same order depending on which way it shifts, so it's possible to prepare for what is to come next. Of course, that's just the Aether form of the stage. For normal, friendly, or competitive battles, the basic form can meet your expectations. It has a basic quad platform layout, with 2 level platforms near the edges and 2 more higher up near the middle of the stage. Overall, the basic layout is extremely similar to Merchant Port in base game Rivals of Aether. This stage comes with 8 music tracks that can be selected, 6 from Aria and 2 from Dawn. This uses Hayuponia's music selector template. From Aria of Sorrow, there is the Harmony of Despair rendition of Ruined Castle Corridor, the Grimoire of Souls rendition of Purgatory Arena, the Top Floor theme, Forgotten Garden, which is just the Floating Garden music, the Clock Tower theme, and Heart of Fire Can't Wait Until Night, which is also known as Julius Belmont's theme. This is specifically the Harmony of Despair rendition. And the 2 tracks from Dawn of Sorrow are the Vampire Survivors rendition of Pitch Black Intrusion, and the Harmony of Despair rendition of After Confession. Each of these tracks can be manually selected and played by using either the left or right stick during countdown. although the latter four require an input to be selected. Thanks to some of the Final Frenzy artists, there's a few familiar faces that can appear on the platforms. Please keep an eye out for them. Anyways, that should wrap things up quite nicely. Before I pass the mic back to Vivi, I've got a few things I would like to say. This was a very fun project to work on. First off, massive thank you to VVizard for approaching me about this collab. The two of us properly collaborating on a character felt like something that would have happened eventually in Workshop, so I'm happy we finally got around to doing so. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really happy with how the character came out. I think this is definitely one of my best looking characters to date. Also, a massive thank you to ViviVinya for coding the Aether form for Soma stage. That was such a massive help, and you did such a fantastic job on it, and I appreciate your help. I think the stage turned out quite nicely from the both of us. Anyways, that'll be all from me tonight. I'll see you all again when I release another character. Have yourselves a good one, and I hope you enjoy the character, and thanks for watching. See ya!
Hey folks, Vivi here! What a treat it was to work on Floating Garden. Thanks for having me, ricE. Though now, I'm back again to proudly display Gergoth's home stage, Condemn Tower, as a collaboration between myself and Dopefish. She laid down the core foundational coding work and mechanics, while I spreaded everything and provided programming for supplementary assets. The stage is based on the original location where you fight Gergoth from Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. After a grueling climb to the top of the tower, Soma doesn't hesitate laying into the titanic beast, to which it responds in desperation by crashing through the floor and plummeting the two through the entire structure. It's one of the most incredible moments in the Castlevania series, if you ask me. The stage takes place inside of the tower, at something of a cross-section, with both the interior and exterior visible. Inside you can see the shattered mural that decorates the original Gergoth fight, and the endless loop of windows and passages. Outside you can see the massive chains keeping the tower steady, with some distant structures falling apart below an omnipresent moon. While you fight, you may notice the ground start to give way, reacting to your attacks. After not too long, wow! The whole floor broke apart! While falling, your double jumps and air dodges are always refreshed, and you won't stay in pratfall, so you can attempt unheard of aerial combos. There's a tiny piece of the floor still floating towards the bottom of the screen, so if you're sent downwards, try aiming for it to bounce back up. After a few moments, you'll land on the next floor and can fight as normal again. Every time you fall, the platform layout is randomized as well. There's even a chance for special platforms to appear on the outside of the tower, which can make for some volatile fighting strategies. Of course, don't get too comfy camping out there, as your opponent can just summon a new layout with a few stage strikes. Of course, for a more standard fight, the basic form will always stay on this initial inverse triplat layout. Don't you think it's a bit eerie how the moon seems to always follow you wherever the fight goes? As is tradition now, Condemn Tower is launching with 8 selectable music tracks. The first 4 are all Dawn of Sorrow classics. Into the Dark Night, as heard in the original title, returns fittingly as Gergoth's boss theme. 2 glorious arrangements by the Noble Demon appear, with Condemn Tower, for straightforward reasons, and Dracula's Tears. Finally, the Vampire Survivors arrangement of Amber Scenery by Filippo Vicarelli, which itself is an unused variation of Subterranean Hell, caps off the list. The other half of the song list are tracks that represent minor bosses throughout the series. Castlevania Chronicles Creatures of the Depth, Symphony of the Nights Festival of Servants, and Portrait of Ruins Piercing Silence all appear. The last track is an unusual one. This is an official soundtrack album arrangement of Bloody Tears from Dracula Perfect Selection. It's coming! Right now! Get ready! Right now! Oh, and before we conclude this presentation with going back to VVizard, I'd like to make a note about the CPU AIs. To be technical for just a moment, those familiar with how Rivals AI works may be wondering about the ability for CPUs to effectively play on the stage that fully disappears. And this is actually remedied by manual zones that encourage AIs to recover. This means that you shouldn't have too many issues of facing off on the stage against a Soma who uses all of his soul abilities uniquely, a Gergoth who mimics his boss fights just like Dracula did, or really just about anyone, though it did leave me with a great excuse to touch up every fighter so far with custom AI, so expect nearly the whole Final Frenzy cast, and even my very own Venom SST, to behave slightly more smartly after today. With that, we conclude this presentation. I want to apologize for taking so long between this and our previous showcase, but I really hope the wait has been worth it, especially considering there are 2 full releases with their own stages and mechanics. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow is my favorite Metroidvania title in the Castlevania series, so I'm really happy we've been able to not only represent Aria of Sorrow, but also Dawn of Sorrow. These 2 games are very special to myself and so many others on this project, and we did our best to represent them faithfully here for the Final Frenzy. In both titles, because of the soul drop mechanic, each playthrough can be quite different due to the different lineup of souls and abilities you have at your disposal. That was the style we wanted to bring with our rendition of Soma Cruz, where throughout the match you will receive new random tools, making it so that Soma feels totally unique in every match. The player needs to adapt and make the best use of their current soul lineup, very similar to how these playthroughs go in the Of Sorrow games. The Castlevania series is very famous for their imposing and memorable bosses. The later titles in the series would really go hard on some specific encounters, and that's what we wanted to bring to Workshop with Gergoth. A huge, powerful character, but with clear weaknesses which makes him a blast to play as or against. As always, I would like to thank all of those involved in this project. First, major thanks to both ricE and Dopefish. Both of you truly brought these characters to life. With so much talent and passion, none of these would have been possible without your love and expertise. Thank you so much. Thanks as well to ViviVinya for her usual insane level of contribution to the character stages, as well as their custom AI and so much more. And of course, thanks to Grim Reaper and Rega for their work on the character's splash screen artworks. Well, I suppose that's all. Soma and Gergoth, as well as their stages, should be available right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you enjoy the characters and stages as well. Perhaps we'll meet again, probably sooner than later. Farewell.